which are some things we've already accomplished and some things we're doing right now. And then Pastor Sarah will update you on short-term objectives that we helped draft and develop from our last meeting session that was back in June. And then I will present the new intermediate objectives, and then we will finish with a question and answer time. Give you all a chance to ask anything you want about the process to Pat, or any questions about anything we present today, or anything that's on your mind. I would like to call the visioning committee to come up onto the chancel and stand shoulder to shoulder, so come on up, visioning committee. And as they're coming up, I just want to say and let you know that we meet twice a month since May, 2-hour sessions each time. And they are always 2-hour sessions. I know someone said, oh, do you give them food? And I'm like, feeling bad, guys, because no, I haven't given them any food. So maybe there'll be some snacks tomorrow night. All right, so this is the committee, and listen, they are so dedicated, and as Kurt Virgin walks in, he was at a class reunion in Pennsylvania yesterday, drove home so he could be here with you guys today. So.
We don't need that.
But I could say that about each and every one of these members. They are so dedicated and so passionate about being here and helping, and how much they love you in this church. So we will start left to right, and that is Kurt Virgin. We have Jerry Ritzman, Roger Wright, Kevin Kaufman, Katie Borman, our facilitator, Pat Berry, Diane Pels, Jenny Borman. Where is Katie? Up there. Jenny Brothers, Pastor Sarah, and Pastor Shelby, and Cindy Farber. She's in the booth today, but she is also on this committee. So let's give them a hand. They worked so hard. So thank you all. See what I have to put up with. Now, some of you might be saying, why are we doing the town hall format this time? Well, we wanted to provide different avenues for participation and feedback. We're trying to reach everybody in the congregation, and we know some of you that are online just for health reasons or vacations or kids are in sports aren't always able to be here on Sunday, and we want to give you a chance. You're part of this congregation. We want to give a chance for you to participate and provide feedback, so we're looking for multiple opportunities to do that. Now I would like to introduce our facilitator, Pat Berry, who will talk a little bit about the Visioning Committee's purpose.
Well, thank you. When we first spoke, I believe in June, I told you that we were going to do this process, and it was going to be very concrete with objectives that could be accomplished. And I have to say, first and foremost, this committee has done a wonderful job. This is not an easy task. It's not an easy task to do. However, the purpose of this is to make your church better for the future, to accomplish what you as the congregation want to accomplish in the next 3 years. And I just love being a part of this. I know I'm not a member of your church, but I can tell you I feel like a member because everybody has been so welcoming, and working with this committee has been great. When I first heard from Sarah and Janie Parrish about being a part of this, I was excited. I was going to start my 3rd career, but I thought this would be better. So, and you know, there's a lot of people I know, Cindy Farber and everybody here. So this has been a great opportunity, but this committee, the purpose of it is to establish a road forward. That's part of the process for the next 3 years. And I think that if you look at what's been accomplished, and from the now to the short objectives, and as we talk about the intermediate objectives, I hope you get as excited as we all are. These folks have put in 560 some hours so far in accomplishing this. And people say, well, how long does it really take? Probably we'll have at least 2,000 hours when this is all said and done, or close to it, because this is a time-consuming process. But the difference between this and a normal process where people say they can do visioning, this is going to have real objectives that are actionable and deliverable. And with that, I'm going to move on. You're welcome.
I'm going to go in my little comfy place, my safe space. I like having a place to put my notes. So as Pat said, this process really has involved the committee a lot, but the goal of today and the goal of the whole process is to involve you, because you are the congregation, and this is not just about what the visioning committee members think, it's about what you all think. So before I get to our short-term objectives, I want to give you a little bit of an update. We did have what we called some now objectives, because there was some excitement about really diving in and just starting to make some changes, some significant, some cosmetic, but to really get the ball rolling rather than wait until January or February to start on some of these things, because a lot of these were already identified by the staff as things we wanted to do. So one of them is our curriculum and our programming for our children. So it's Children's Sunday School. And I want to say a special thank you to Kate Gray and her Christian Education Committee, who have revamped the way that we do children's Christian education for this year. We're going to experiment with a one-room schoolhouse model. We're very excited about this. So they'll have class instruction with a really fun curriculum that's very engaging with some games and activities. And we heard from parents that it was going to be hard for them to do Sunday school and worship and stay an extra time to do what we call God's Kids Club, which is when we make special crafts for our homebound members and write them letters. It's a wonderful ministry. And JYF, which is basically fellowship fun activities for our elementary kids. So we listened to that feedback from parents, and we decided to roll God's Kids Club and JYF into that Sunday school hour. So that will now take place during the Sunday school hour on a rotating basis throughout the month. So those are a couple changes, the now changes that we've worked out. You'll also notice that we've done some things with our media and marketing and visibility. Hopefully you've noticed some changes. Hopefully you have liked and shared on your own Facebook pages some of the things that are happening. But we have added some more lawn signs for First Friday, for the outdoor movie night. So we purchased some things to put on the lawn. We also have that really fun inflatable guy. I don't know what you call that guy, but the inflatable guy that goes out front, Donna has named St. Andrew. So St. Andrew, after our St. Andrew cross as disciples. So you'll see St. Andrew when we have special events on our lawn, out there doing his thing. And then, of course, who can miss our beautiful red doors that now make a real statement when people drive by? They know that that is a church, and things are happening, and hopefully as a place of real welcome. So hopefully that's really a sign of welcome and vitality. We want the community to know we're here. We've done 2 First Fridays this summer, so a huge thank you to those of you who made that possible. So those are all things that we're doing now to try to increase our visibility in the community and increase our media marketing. Oh, and the last thing is our electronic sign, which hopefully you've noticed has more content more frequently. And in addition to just having events, it has a little bit more about who we are as a community, what our mission is, what our purpose is. So that's been another change, and a huge thank you to Felicity for not only the electronic sign messaging, but for getting those doors painted so beautifully by a professional. So huge thank you to Felicity and Kate for that. Oh, and we have some nice flower pots out front on the front steps if you hadn't noticed those when you drive by. Okay, so those are a few of our now objectives that we've been working on in terms of short-term objectives. So you'll remember that when we started this process, if you can believe it, in May, we sent out a survey and you all sent back your feedback. And based on that feedback, the committee drafted some short-term objectives. Then we met in June as a congregation over a nice potluck in small groups, and you gave us some great suggestions and ideas about how to implement those short-term objectives. So we took all that information back to the visioning committee and started putting together some of the specifics about how we're going to roll out those objectives in really practical terms. So I wanted to let you know which committee members are overseeing those areas. So if you do have additional ideas or suggestions, or want to be a part of making them a reality, you know who to talk to. So for children's programming, that's Jenny Brothers. For community visibility and media marketing, that's Kurt Virgin and Roger Wright. For music, that's Kevin Kaufman, and Pat's working with him. For relationship building and spiritual formation for families and young adults, that's Katie Borman, and again, Jenny Brothers. And then lastly, the goal of welcoming and integrating visitors and new members into our life of faith is Dan Sondels and Diane Pels. So those are your go-to people for those particular short-term objectives. And I did want to say, too, also a shout out to Gary, who has been working really hard to recruit additional musicians for our contemporary praise band, so singers and musicians as well. So that's kind of it for short-term objectives. I do want to mention a couple practical things. So if you're wondering what that's going to look like, as I mentioned, the music piece that Gary's doing, but we're also, for media marketing, working on designing a lawn sign. Maybe you guys have seen other churches have these that members would put in their own lawn, their personal lawn, that we could each buy, that would have our logo and a little bit about our church. So we're working on that for media marketing, just one of the things we're doing. And then the visitor and new member group is working on packets and gifts that we can hand out to people when they visit us on a Sunday morning. So a lot more other things are happening, but we don't have time to get into all of that today because I want you to hear from Val about our intermediate objectives. So that's our focus for today, is what's happening with those intermediate objectives. So thanks.
As I go over the intermediate objectives, as you came in, you should have got a sheet of paper that has each of them on there, and also a blank piece of paper. If you did not get those, raise your hands, and one of our committee members will make sure that you get them. Your name is not required on these papers at all, unless you want to put it on there. And if you need room to use the back for additional comments, you can do that. You can use the hymnal as a firm surface to write. And this town hall is being taped, and it will be separate from the sermon that was today. So if you want to go back and, rewatch, and there's also going to be a Google link that will be coming out that will also give you another chance to make comments and give your feedback. Because maybe you're like me, you get home and you go, oh, I should have wrote that down. I should have put that comment. I should have suggested this. So you will get a chance. You will all get that link online at home. The intermediate objectives are objectives that go 6 months to 1 year to get going. And the first one is reintroduce and reimagine fellowship offerings for retired and senior community. My senior friends, we know you are the heart and soul of this church. You have history here, biblical wisdom to share. You've inspired us with your stories about walking with Christ in both life's joys and sorrows. And you have helped us to grow in our faith journeys through your dedication, service, leadership, and mentorship. So we felt very strongly and agreed with all the feedback that you gave us from the congregation to give opportunities for you to get together with your peers through shared meals, conversations, activities, and outings. And you bring us so much joy. Speaking of joy, the committee proposed a new name for all of you, Joy Fellowship. Has a little bit of double meaning, as joy will stand for just older youth. Now, we need some people that would help out on this committee to get everything going and provide these opportunities. And if you're interested, you can write it on your form or put it in the feedback that comes online. And Jerry Ritzman and Kurt Virgin are heading up this objective. So if you feel God whispering in your ear or tapping on your shoulder that you would like to help out, please contact them or me. I'll help out and make sure they get the information. Number 2, continuing education in preaching. Your feedback told us that one of our top strengths was our pastors. Yet one of the top weaknesses was the sermons. We are so blessed here to have not just one, but 2 outstanding pastors. And they are so driven and dedicated and willing to work on that weakness until it becomes a strength. Through reading books, attending classes, conferences, attending seminars, webinars, and developing a congregational feedback loop. And we all can take responsibility and help them by being open, honest, and fair with them, supporting and encouraging them, and loving and praying for them as we all grow and journey forward together. Roger Wright is heading up this objective, so if you are looking to come and help guide and support our pastors, please contact Roger, and he will be glad to help you get started. Number 3, music enhancements. And this is continued. Music enhancements, you're going to see it short-term, intermediate, and long-term, because this is going to take some time and some phases to get this going. It takes time to build up a music program. At the intermediate phase, we will be looking at the layout and the staging of the contemporary service. Kevin Kaufman and Pat has offered his service to head up that objective, and I know Gary Oliver also is willing, he's in on that and helping with that. So if you contact any of them or write on your form you'd like to help out with that, please do. And if you can sing or play guitar, or have some musical talent, please contact them also. Number 4, focus on relationship building and spiritual formation for families and young adults. We are looking at ways to build discipleship between new members and existing members through spiritual mentorship. Katie Borman and Jenny Brothers are heading up this objective, so please contact them if you feel God whispering to you, tugging on your heart, to help out with that objective. Or you can write it on the back of your feedback form. Now we're come to our question and answer time, where you can pick our brains a little bit with Pastor Sarah, Pat, and I. There's a couple ways that you can do this. You can step up to the mic. We have a mic in the center aisle if you have a question. Or the lovely Diane Pels has a microphone if you want to stay seated, and she'll come to you to ask your question. You were given a blank card, and if you feel more comfortable to use that and write your question out, one of the committee members will just hold it up, and the committee members will come around and collect them, and then they'll bring them up to us. And then Pastor Shelby is online, so if you are at home, you can put your question in the chat, and she will relay that question to us. And so that's how we're going to do it. So is there anybody that has a question Diane can come to, or you can step up to the mic, or if you wrote something down, we will be happy to answer any questions.
We have a question from online. I'm curious if the committee is considering working with other faith communities in the area to approach sports leagues on the issue of scheduling conflicts, games/practices scheduled on Sunday mornings, for example.
I think maybe Pastor Sarah will take this question.
I'd be happy to take that question. Full disclosure, this is something that I do dream about. I draft this letter in my brain all the time. How would I write a letter? What would I say to these sports leagues about not having conflicts on Sunday mornings? So I have not taken any action on that. I think it's a great suggestion. I've definitely thought about it many times of reaching out to my colleagues. It's primarily, from what I gather, it's not school-based sports. It's primarily paid leagues, so those are going to be a harder sell. If it was just our local school district, even our local churches lobbying them, I think we might have more impact. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's going to be a bigger sell to these leagues that are like statewide and regional, that have no local connection to Wadsworth churches. So I'm not saying it's not worth an effort, but I think that's, from what I gather from parents, those are the leagues that we're up against for Sunday morning competition. So.
Good job.
Yeah. So that'd be great. So Karen has offered, to take this over to other churches and sign off. I almost wonder about even a letter to the editor in a newspaper too, with a bunch of clergy signed off on it as a possibility that would get maybe more broader appeal than just going directly to that organization, which could just deep six the letter. But thank you for that offer.
Thank you, Karen. That was a good idea. Oh, come on. Here's your chance. Ask us.
I don't need a microphone, because I'm all
For people at home to hear you, though, just so people at home can hear you. Yeah.
Come, Mary.
Okay.
Can we lift that one up, Shelby? Can you? Oh, you got it. Perfect.
So I'm sitting here at the end of this service feeling really sad because I know that we're going to split up next week. As small as our congregation is, there's going to be possibly 25 people at each, and if we can't, as a church family, unite in our worship, no matter what it looks like, I don't know how we're going to attract new people.
This is a great question. Do you want me to start, or do you guys want to?
You go ahead and start, and I might
Okay.
chime in.
Okay, sounds great. So thank you, Mary Chris, because this is a really important question that many of us have brought to our visioning committee. So this is something that we're going to take up for the long-term goal. So that is going to be our next big conversation. We didn't do it as an intermediate goal because we honestly haven't had time to gather the information and the data from you all and kind of broader nationally, regionally. What we want to do is what's best for the church short-term and long-term, and looking at what statistics, how statistics bear out, having one service versus two service, having a blended worship versus two different types of worship services. But I definitely hear what you're saying, and you are not alone in loving the feeling of all being together for worship services. So if you have strong feelings about this one way or the other, as church members, we need to hear from you. So please let any of the visioning members know what your thoughts are, or write them on those pieces of paper. Yep.
Yeah, this has been a continuing conversation probably since day one in the committee. So just so you know, we are working on it, and it's still a conversation that's happening, and we take it very seriously. Thank you, Mary, for bringing that up. Pat, did you want to comment?
I do. I think that there are many churches, small churches, that are struggling with the same thing, both from the sports as well as, do you have one service? Is it a contemporary service? Do you have a traditional service, or do you have two services? Do you have one service on Saturday evening and one on Sunday morning, or another night during the week? So a lot of churches that are smaller are struggling with the same thing. And as Val and Pastor Sarah have mentioned, this has come up numerous times. We've had a lot of discussion with the committee, and hopefully we'll be able to work to a resolution of how this is going to come out, maybe through some experimentation as we've talked.
And told you that we meet twice a month for 2 hours, but this is continuous conversation. We email each other and share data and religious trends and attendance trends in our church, financial statistics. It is continuous throughout this whole process. So the conversations are going and going. So, other questions over here?
Is there a staff liaison assigned to each of these goals?
So go ahead.
I'm sorry, did you indicate a staff member?
Has your staff member assigned
I think there,
liaison with the
Oh, yeah, we can repeat the question. Sorry. The question is there a staff liaison assigned to each of these roles? So we have asked the visioning committee members to include staff in those conversations. So for instance, Roger and I, and Kurt was out of town, but had a media marketing conversation, our very first conversation, and we invited Donna and Claire so all of us could sit down together, because obviously a lot of these are going to be implemented by staff, right? So, so we've asked, the visioning committee members to include staff members in those ongoing conversations. Yeah.
I think it's also important, as mentioned, if you're a staff member, if you're part of the congregation, you're a committee on another committee, we want to hear from you, because this is your church. You know it better than anyone. You know exactly what you want. And so we want to hear back from you, as you have indicated during the first visioning session we had as a congregation. So please come forward and be a part, or submit a question, submit a statement. We're welcoming you.
So is there anything set up, if somebody is like on social media, hey, I'm new to the area, is there any good churches to go to? I mean, I see that socially on different pages, and I keep thinking, we'll have different members come in and say, hey, come to our church, it's great. But it would be a lot better to make it actionable, to say, press the easy button and have somebody designated to send and contact, private message somebody and say, come to our church, this is our service, this is our website, we'd love to see you, can we see you Sunday? Or can I call you? I mean, that would be a neat thing, but I don't know if you already have something like that.
We do not. We don't have like an automatic, so are you talking like an individual's Facebook feed, or like Wadsworth Neighbors Facebook? Wadsworth Neighbors, okay. Yeah, so that's not a bad idea to and so I'm sure Roger, Kurt taking this down, notes. Is there a way to have someone monitor, so we'd have to have somebody monitoring the Wadsworth Neighbors feed, right? And then be able to respond personally, individually, which is a great suggestion. Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, the Wadsworth neighbor thing. Thank you.
We have another question from online, and just really quick, even if you think you're loud enough, you're not loud enough for the folks online to hear you, so if you would, please wait for the mic to come to you before you ask your question or give your feedback. And our next question is, how many different outreach groups / activities are we currently supporting? What are our outreach objectives? Specific number of engagements, demographics / community segments engaged?
That's a great question. So outreach came up in all of our surveys as one of our strengths, as opposed to one of our weaknesses. So we've definitely geared our objectives more towards our weaknesses than our strengths. Having said that, outreach is one of the main reasons that is one of the core identities of this congregation. So I think it might be worth considering whether we include that as an objective going forward, and what that might look like. And as this person indicated, having some way to measure the outreach we currently do and outreach we might like to do, and sort of how we focus those energies. As we know, being a smaller church, there's only so many of us, right? And a lot of us wear lots of hats and do lots of ministries. So I think it's important to look at our resources, both our people resources, our staff and financial resources, and really focus those on where we think we can make the most difference, right? So and that would apply to outreach as well as other ministries that we do. So I think it's a great one to add to the list, yeah.
One of the things I would add to that, to what Sarah indicated, is when we first started doing this, we could have had 100 objectives for this next 3 years. But the important thing was only work on what you can accomplish in this next 3 years, given the number of people in the congregation, given the staff, given the committee members, because it does no good to have 100 objectives if you can't complete those in the timely fashion. So you're better off to take, and I had indicated, so you can maybe blame me or blame me. I said we should only have 4 or 5 objectives for each period of time, for the 0 to 6 months, 6 months to a year, 1 year to 3 years, because as you will hear, we move into the long-term objectives. Those are the ones that will require additional resources as well. And when I say resources, that's both people and funding. So it's better off to work your way through this process with a limited number of objectives than to try to accomplish 100 different objectives. I hope that makes sense to you. If not, you can talk to me afterwards and I'll kind of explain that process to you. Speaking of questions, I have a question that was just handed to me. Have we talked to people or families that have left our church? And if so, what was the feedback?
Yes, we did. We contacted many of the people who left anonymously. We brought the feedback back, and I kind of compiled everything on reasons that they left. A couple of top reasons were we didn't open soon enough after COVID. We got too political at the pulpit. We weren't welcoming enough. And those were probably the top 3, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got work to do.
Music.
And the music. The contemporary music needs to be more contemporary, is what the people said that left. So those were kind of the top 4 things we heard at exit interviews. But we're very open and honest with you. We're going to tell you. And I just want to say something about what Pat said. You know, we got a ton of replies back in your comments and weaknesses, and there's like no way we can do all of that and everything. So we kind of looked at the top things to try to work the top weaknesses and try to develop them and make them our strengths and get us back here. So that's what we've been working on. Other questions? Great questions, everybody, online and here.
There's a question here.
Dave Critchfield has a question.
Diane's getting her 10,000 steps in.
Is there one goal that we're trying to accomplish at the end of the 3 years? I know we've got now goals, short-term goals, intermediate goals, but what are we reaching for at the end of the 3 years?
I would say we're trying to draw young families and young adults in, and that's one of the reasons we're revamping the music also as a draw. That seems to be a draw at other churches, because we want to build up our attendance. You know, we want to bring as many people to Jesus Christ as we can and to bring him glory. So I would say that's it. I mean, Sarah, Pat, I feel like that has been our top thing all along.
One of the things that you want to be not careful of, but be mindful of, we have short-term, intermediate, and long-term objectives, which will be to bring that to support the ultimate goal. And there's only one goal, and that's what Val had indicated. And the most important thing that we have to do in order to accomplish what Val has indicated is we need to bring more people into this church. We have to get younger people, and we have to continue to provide programs for our joy congregational members. So the goal is to bring more people into this church to sustain this church. We certainly do not want this church to close. We want more people supporting the church in a Christ-like fashion.
Thank you, Pat. Anything else? We're happy to answer any questions, best we can. And you have those feedback forms if you're here to write any comments you want on there, and you can use the back if you need to. All righty then, couple final announcements. On your way out, there are wicker baskets to put your feedback form in so that we meet tomorrow night. So we will be looking at those and discussing them tomorrow night. But there's also that link that's going to come to you, like I said, if you get home and say, oh man, I should have said this, because that's me. But so go ahead and, look at that. Save the date, because Sunday, November 6th is our third and final visioning session. And that one will be with a potluck, a large and small group presentation, because we really did enjoy the fellowship and sharing that meal together. So we'll bring that back. And then if you're staying here, if you're still here on your way out, there is ice cream cups and cookies in the gathering area. Or if you can't stay, take an ice cream cup with you for a treat later on when you're watching the games. And please enjoy that. Pastor Shelby's going to close us with a prayer, but I just want to thank all of you on behalf of the committee for participating today, for your feedback, for your support, and for your prayers. We truly appreciate it, and we thank you. Pastor Shelby, close us out, please.
Please pray with me. Amazing God, we ask that as we continue in this visioning process, we might feel your guiding spirit the whole way. We ask that you empower members of our congregation to step up and be involved in this process, to give feedback, and just to show their incredible dedication to this congregation and to you. We ask that you guide us, lead us in our objectives, help us, strengthen us to accomplish those objectives, and may all we do be for your glory, honor, and praise. We thank you and we love you. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, everybody online. We appreciate it.